Good morning and welcome. Muy buenos días y bienvenidos sean todos. Welcome to the HEDS Virtual Best Practices Showcase, celebrating technology innovation for Hispanic success in higher education. My name is Rene Sainz from the University of Texas at Brownsville, and I will be your host today on behalf of our HEDS Executive Director and producer of this conference, Ms. Yubelkis Montalvo. Muy buenos días y bienvenidos sean todos a nombre de HEDS y de su directora ejecutiva, la Yubelkis Montalvo, a esta conferencia virtual de mejores prácticas, titulada Celebrando la innovación tecnológica para lograr el éxito de los hispanos en la educación universitaria. Les saluda René Sáenz desde la Universidad de Texas en Brownsville a nombre de todo el grupo de HEDS. Primero que nada, me gustaría reconocer a mis compañeros de la Universidad de Texas, Francisco García y David Lugo, que hacen posible este evento con todo su soporte técnico y utilizando nuestra plataforma. First, HEDS would like to recognize the collaboration and support of the University of Texas at Brownsville staff, my colleagues, Francisco Garcia and David Lugo, who have made possible this event in live transmission. We're deeply grateful for the support. We also would like to welcome all participants watching this event through the internet. We really appreciate your interest and support for this HEDS initiative. As you can see, the introduction is going to be in a bilingual format. Today's presentation is going to be in English, by the way. But we have both presentations in English and Spanish, so this is really a cultural and linguistic experience attending this conference. This is a historic event. It's bringing us together for the third time as a HEDS conference. But this is the first totally online conference bringing together an exceptional amount of expert academicians, highlighting the prominent opportunities to enhance Hispanic higher education through the savvy use of technology. This outstanding group of professionals create such an extraordinary synergy from which we hope to take advantage during this event. Y este evento es el tercero en cuanto a las conferencias de HEDS, pero el primero realmente en línea, y que ha logrado reunir a expertos como el de hoy. Y este es sobre todo el uso de la tecnología para lograr el éxito de los hispanos, que realmente es nuestra meta común. Así que estamos seguros que esto va a crear una sinergia y que todos nos vamos a beneficiar de ello. The HEDS Consortium is excited to have been able to attend for this event the participation of member institutions from Puerto Rico, the U.S., and Colombia. Así que tenemos participantes, miembros de HEDS, tanto de Puerto Rico, los Estados Unidos y Colombia. Recibimos 15 propuestas de todas estas instituciones miembros y también vamos a tener discusiones que a través de todas este par de semanas. So we have we received 15 proposals from all member institutions to participate in this event. The top proposals, such as today's, are transmitted live, and then I'll give you more information about the recordings at the end of the presentation. The presentation is going to take 30 minutes. We will have a chance to have some questions and answers through chat, and like I said, afterwards, the conversation will continue. Así que vamos a empezar con la presentación, nuevamente que será en inglés. We are going to open the live presentation, and the track is Equivalence, and the title of our presentation is Not Flex Time Courses, but Flex Place. And it is my honor to say that this particular presentation and presenter is also from the University of Texas, here from the University of Texas Pan American, where I have said before, Pan American has been a leader in online learning, and especially in the use of modern technologies such as Second Life. And as we saw yesterday with Kenneth Saylor's presentation, the focus on quality is also very important in this sister institution. The presentation today, I have a description. It says the Organization Communication and Professional Development course is designed to provide access to service area students to help them achieve progress on degrees without coming to the university. But the course design makes the course the equal to physical classes in terms of contact hours in both synchronous and asynchronous elements. This is accomplished using Second Life as the basis for course design and delivery. An additional positive is the game-like learning experience that engages and captivates students. Definitely, this is a very interesting presentation. And our presenter, my colleague from the University of Texas at Austin, is Professor David Sturges. David is an associate professor at the University of Texas Pan American in Edinburgh, Texas, and has been online with course activities since 1994. So we have a pioneer with us. He currently teaches undergraduate and graduate courses online and in Second Life. He has published his techniques on a number of publications and has earned the Hormel Meritorious Teaching Award at the University of Texas Pan American Innovation in Online Teaching Award. I am very proud to present to you Professor David Sturges. David, thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Sines. When I first entered education, and I won't tell you how long ago that was, I was met by friends of mine who asked what the difference between administration at the university was and what we had experienced in our several years of management within our organization. And I explained that based on my first experience as an administrator at a university, that a university is kind of like a super tanker. In other words, we have to turn the wheel today in order to make a corner a long time down the road. Well, we are currently at one of those places for higher education in general and for faculty in particular. Good morning. My name is David Sturges, and I am here today to talk about some techniques for increasing student engagement for contact hour equivalence, which is an important factor in a lot of document and record keeping for everything from financial aid to accreditation. What we're going to focus on are looking at online courses that are flex place and not flex time. Just to give you a brief introduction to why I am here today, as Dr. Sines said, I had my first course support material placed online in 1994, even before the University of Texas Pan American had an online site for other students to visit. I had the earliest completely online classes of any faculty member at UT Pan American, so I have spent my time trying to find ways to be innovative in the course content to make the online experience one that the students will find equal to or better than their traditional face-to-face courses, while faculty and administration find the courses to truly be contributors to the overall effectiveness of the organization. Now, one of the things that is basic to my belief is that we are in a changing world as it relates to the use of online classes for education. As it stands now, education online is in a boom growth period. More than 6.1 million students are taking at least one online course over the past couple of years, while 31% of all undergraduate students take at least one online course during their education. What research has found is that online courses no longer are defined as distance learning because they are most often used by students to create flexibility in their schedules or to add additional courses to their schedules in order to try to accelerate their path toward their degree. So most often we find, and if I remember the number correctly, it's about 80% of students in online courses are students in the local institution merely using it as a flex time basis for adding courses to their schedules. Now, given this idea, it came to me that what we might do is to work toward developing the online courses into a greater quality level so that academic leaders would see them as the equal to or exceeding quality level of face-to-face courses. A research study done in 2010 found that at that time, 67% of the academic leaders believed that online course outcomes would meet or exceed those of face-to-face classes. However, if you take a look at the distribution of this fact, what you'll see is a very, very small number of the administrators believe that the outcomes of online education are superior to face-to-face, while a little larger number believe that it's somewhat superior, while most of them believe it's about the same, and then you have some fairly significant numbers that believe that it is somewhat inferior or inferior. So what I set out is to find ways of moving the course quality into a level that would make that green superior begin to increase so that the educational experience, the learning experiences of students would surely be better even than they could find in their standard face-to-face classes. With this idea that, yes, there is an increasing amount of quality, the big question that remained for me was, could the online courses meet expectations for contact hours to achieve equality with the face-to-face courses while they were increasing their overall quality level for student experiences? So this became a quest of mine that ended up leading me to this concept of contact hour equivalence. If you are unfamiliar with the contact hours equivalence issue as it's currently arising nationwide, then it's only fair to tell you that we are, in that supertanker, beginning to need to make a turn now so that we can, in fact, have our supertanker headed in the right direction several years down the road. This is a national challenge for online course design as well as standard face-to-face course design as well. Now, just so that we're all playing on the same page, let's talk about the definition of contact hours for just a moment. The traditional contact hour that most universities recognize for record-keeping purposes is 14 to 15 hours of direct contact per semester between the faculty member and students. The time for final exams is clearly or usually not included in the contact hour calculation. What this means is that for a 3-hour class, then the expectation for contact hours between faculty and student or student to student is 42 to 45 hours. Now, this is based on an item called the Carnegie Unit, which was adopted in 1906 by the pressures from the Carnegie Foundation as a way of documenting faculty workloads for purposes of record keeping, financial aid, records for income tax, a whole bunch of other things. It defined in the Carnegie Unit that for each hour of credit of a course, that it would carry about 2 hours of outside homework. Now, this Carnegie Unit has been adopted in either its real or its modified form for almost every college and university here in the United States. Around the world, it's not quite so important, but here in the United States, it does, in fact, provide the basis for accounting for both student and faculty activities for record-keeping purposes. Now, what this means is that if you have a 14-week course, or a 15-week roughly, and you have 3 hours of contact between the faculty and the students, or between students and students, that each week 6 hours of homework is required in order to conform to the Carnegie Unit. We have an accelerated program at our university where the online courses are taught in a 7-week time period, meaning that we will have 6 hours of contact between faculty and student, while we have 12 hours of homework per week. So a 7-hour course is a 7-week course is absolutely a crush of time in order to meet the hours under this contact hours definition. Online courses, of course, must require the same hour application as face-to-face in most states' regulations. In other words, the administrators are wanting to keep the online courses to be the equal of face-to-face courses and not any kind of reduced quality, reduced time, or any kind of shortcut to the students' performance and learning experiences. So they must be equal, but the problem is, how do you create the contact hours in order to be able to achieve similar kinds of numbers? Well, the regulations from the states that have tackled this the equivalence issue, they usually provide some flexibility when it comes to meeting the requirements. In other words, places like Pennsylvania and Illinois, their educational oversight bodies have both come up with concepts that permit colleges to determine learning activities that will constitute the equivalency of class time for the purposes of satisfying that 42-hour content requirement. In other words, it provides a little bit of flexibility for a college administration and faculty to come together and say, well, there will be certain types of activities that will be the equivalent of the faculty to faculty or the faculty to student time in a face-to-face class, which then will be credible in such a way as to ensure similar learning objectives for the classes. Now, the things that have come up in some of this work, one of them by the Pennsylvania Department of Education, has suggested that the activities that will be equivalent in the classroom would be, first, directly related to the objectives of the course or program, that they would be measurable for grading purposes, that they have direct oversight or supervision from the course instructor, and that some form of equivalency of activity be conducted in a classroom. So these were laid out as the basic criteria for the equivalency of contact hours. You'll notice here that there is no specific reference to time or clock time in constituting a measure of the contact hours. They are, though, directly related to the achievement of objectives in a measurable term that are viewed or conducted by oversight by the faculty member. The University of Illinois has done a great deal of work in defining the activities for online courses that will in fact meet these general criteria. If you would like to see the list, this URL will lead you to a page that shows you the list of elements that can be built into online courses that will fulfill a prescription for the equivalence of contact hours. So here is a developed list that was developed by the faculty and administration to define the types of elements and components that could be built into an online course and thereby eliminate or create the equivalency for a face-to-face course. The concern was the need for providing activities that would in fact have greater supervision by the instructor, as well as increased student-to-student activity in order to achieve the level of contact that would be a positive educational experience. So these elements show up as one that will in fact provide us the opportunity of building quality online courses that will meet a judgment criteria of their equivalence to the hour requirement for face-to-face courses. The things that cannot be included in the structure of the courses are homework assignments and some type of time spent. So in other words, if you build discussion boards into your online class, the quality and the productivity of the discussion board must be rated, not how long the students spent in the discussion board either reading or posting elements. So the mere reading or posting of elements in the discussion board does not meet this equivalency requirement. So here is the contact equivalency challenge. How do we incorporate these types of activities into online courses to secure that contact equivalence? Well, this was my challenge because I wanted online courses to be quality. I wanted them to be high levels of learning experiences for the students. I wanted them to be not so much things where students could add a record to their transcript, but something where they actually learn and can apply the material not only in their academic pursuits, but in their professional careers. One of the first elements that arose was when our university became an affiliate with Quality Matters. As Dr. Sines mentioned a few moments ago, yesterday Ken Saylor made a presentation about the application of Quality Matters into the development of degree programs and courses. I highly recommend that you go back and view that presentation if you haven't seen it, because in my opinion, the Quality Matters concept is one that is absolutely essential to the continued success as an educational outcome for online courses to raise their level of quality, and at the same time to put in the operational planning and documentation that's going to lead to the ability to document the contact hour equivalency for accreditation, for financial information, for any record keeping that is needed in order to follow through with these records. Now, Quality Matters program briefly is centered at the University of Maryland. It was started with a grant from the Department of Education where a consortium of schools came together to define what constituted a quality online program. They now have the option for you to be able to put your courses and/or programs into evaluation with their evaluation team so that you can either receive a Quality Matters approval or a Quality Matters you need to try something else in order to ensure that you're meeting the entire set of criteria they define. They have adopters from all over the world, and in fact, they have increased the quality level of the overall program development. The Quality Matters program actually associates with the philosophy of learning called andragogy, which is designed for adult students as opposed to pedagogy, which is designed for children. So it associates with the idea of developing online learning experiences that the students can see the need for, that they can understand why they need to learn something and therefore be motivated to do a better learning experience job. Now, after I got into the Quality Matters, I have 3 online courses that I have created on the Quality Matters level by including activities into them that are related to the concept of trying to ensure that the activities contribute to the objective of the organizational or the class mission, and that they are measurable by observation and/or other documentation. But the important thing is that in the development of the online courses using the Quality Matters, it automatically creates a document that leads from defining the objectives of the course, the activities that will contribute to that, the assessments that will then confirm it, and then how you use it to reconstruct or modify the program for its increased effectiveness. I began with 3 courses. First of all, I sat down and said to myself, what is it that I want the course to be able to deliver to the students? And I did not stop and think, well, it's an online course, so it has limitations. Instead, what I said was, what is it if I were having a course that I would want it to contain? First of all, teamwork. Second, leadership. Third, live professional presentation. Fourth, student-to-student interaction. And last, faculty-to-student interaction. Do these sound like objectives for the typical online course? Usually not. So when I looked at these, I said, how am I going to accomplish these in online courses? Well, I had to select the tools that I have used to achieve these objectives. And the first tool that's available is Wimba, or Collaborate in the Blackboard. And of course here we have an excellent example of the type of situation that can be built into a class using Wimba for you to be able to establish some sort of faculty-to-student and student-to-student objective achieving activity. Here's an example of a student's presentation in Wimba.
In order to be a communicator, we must know what communication is. The situation in virtual leader scenario 3, status quo, is set up in a scenario where you have the following characters: Ollie, the key representative, Will, the vice president of the city.
So this method provides a way online of having the students, either as individuals or as a group, make a presentation in the Wimba or Collaborate environment that the faculty member can view or the students can view to get student-to-student interaction. As this one is being recorded, these can be recorded so that students can go back and review them again, both students looking to see how they did in the presentation, as well as students who need to go in and acquire the information from the presentation. In this particular case, the students are required to submit an online evaluation form of the presentation using a rubric so that there is confirmation that the students did in fact go in and view the videos of the presentations or were in the presentations themselves. Now, one of the interesting facts that I ran across at one point is that we are in a changing world, that 79% of all adults, that is those people 18 years of age and up, access online video games. That 91% of all children 4 through 18 access video games. This knocked my socks off when I was talking about the students spending their time with video games until my oldest daughter, who's now 27, when I went to visit her, I discovered one of her great pleasures of relaxation was playing video games in the evening, and I thought to myself, wow, it may be true. But with this amount of people who play video games, it means that for our young people growing up, 3D worlds are places where they live, where they experience a great deal of things that comprise their world. So I decided I could either embrace this or I could ignore it. Well, I decided to embrace it. So I began to look for a way to create a flex place for our students to go as opposed to flex time for classes. Since most of the students take this as a course that is in their schedule and they are local students, then I thought to myself, as a commuter campus, that is where students have to drive in order to attend a class, that what make it more effective and easier to account for contact time is to create a flex place that would be attractive to them for them to be able to attend class from anywhere in our four-county service area, or for that matter, anywhere in the world. What this meant was the creation of synchronous online courses that had asynchronous elements to expand its contact hour equivalence. These courses are not solo student independent as many online courses are. They're classes held in real time in an online world. Let me give you an example. Here is an online class that was created in Second Life in order for the students to attend the class at a specific registered time, and with the audio capability of Second Life, it provided us an opportunity for the students to be able to access both faculty and other students for discussion while they could be anywhere in the world. Here is the example of the lecture.
Okay. Now, let's say that we have completed all of our strategic planning, and we have given a great deal of thought about how we are going to implement our plan so that we have reached a point that we now have to convert all of that information and understanding that is in our minds into a written form of the document that will transmit the greatest amount of information and understanding about what it is we're thinking to those to whom we must submit this document for decision-making purposes.
If you take a look at this scene of the classroom, here all of the students are gathered together in a single online site for us to have the lecture, for them to be exposed to information, or to carry on discussion with each other. The students who are sitting in this class in the online version are in fact in a number of different locations around the state of Texas. In this particular class, there was one person in Atlanta, one person in Dallas, one person in Austin, and then the remainder were here in the Rio Grande Valley. Fortunately, our university made a commitment to Second Life as an educational tool, and it became a part of our online learning support offices on the university campus with well-trained developers and graphic artists who are able to bring together everything that we needed in order to create the classrooms so that they were about as close to real instance as they could possibly be. Now, the second item that went into it in order to increase the contact hours is online office hours. All office hours or all courses are required to have office hours by policy of our Handbook of Operating Procedure. And the problem is that with students who don't drive into the campus very often, it's very difficult for them to be able to come by the office to talk. So in this particular instance, I built in the opportunity for students to attend an online office hours where they were free to ask questions. And when the questions were answered, the entire exchange would have been recorded so that not only they, but anybody not able to go into the office hours could go into the Blackboard class and view the office hours to get results.
All right.
Here is an example.
Video going for the office hours. So today's is likely to be a relatively short meeting unless you guys have some questions. I did not receive any questions from anybody via email, so I don't really have anything for the first part of the agenda today. The one question that came in the early part of the week, which you should have all...
The idea behind this element is that the objective of the course is to try to ensure that every class member develops the competencies that are built into the course, that is, the objectives that are being sought, that every student does acquire competencies at a high level in order to be able to move on with their academic and their professional careers. The concept of grading on a normally distributed frequency distribution, commonly referred to as a bell curve, is one that I find apprehensive. My job as a teacher is to make sure that everybody in the class is going to get a competency, or that is meet some of the course objectives, and will then score well on the assessments of those objectives so that they will all, in fact, gain the knowledge that it takes to prepare them as better individuals. Now, students themselves here in Second Life do their presentations that when they're required. So here is an opportunity to create a real-time presentation where the student must stand up before the group in order to make a formal presentation just as if they would in a face-to-face operation. Now, the particular sample that I'm going to show you came from an assignment where the students were given the role of being space people who were doing a reconnaissance of the Earth to make a presentation about the cultural issues of the planet Earth. So that's one of the reasons why the audio is set up a little funny in here, is to provide us with the atmosphere of this actually being on a spaceship.
Here to present information gathered on our important mission to planet Earth. I will begin with providing background. We are three community members with expertise in survival studies, which consist of new environment studies and adaptation, and studies of the Galactic Galaxy.
Believe it or not, the comments that I get most on student evaluations is how much fun the students have with this particular assignment, where they are in fact developing presentation skills with the same type of pressures, the same type of needs, the same type of outcome that they would have in a standard face-to-face class. Now, in addition, groups make presentations here in Second Life when they have an assignment. Here is an example of group presentation.
Okay, here we are at the beginning of our Management 4369 Second Life presentations for Nigrain Corporation's strategic planning for the following year. So if Group 2 will step forward and begin anytime you are ready.
I guess they weren't quite as ready as I thought.
They're practicing punching the button at the moment.
This must not have been a good example to give you. Let's move on. Now, in addition to the synchronous component we're meet in class, asynchronous is an important component of building the equivalence. The items that you select to be a part of the course that qualify to be counted in the contact hour equivalence, just to remind you, must be elements that achieve the objectives or contribute to the objectives of the course, meaning your objectives of the course have to be defined specifically. See the presentation by Mr. Saylor in order to see what this is all about. Because from my experience, faculty members are not very good at writing specific objectives in order to achieve both the measurable and the assessment characteristics. So here we have the type of asynchronous activity that I build in to create the faculty to student equivalence, while the student may do this anytime that they want to in the assignment.
Here we are entering one of the 10 galleries associated with an online class in Second Life. Each week, the students will access one of these galleries in order to be exposed to information that would ordinarily be distributed in a lecture, but done so in a way that's far more game-like. For example, a student arriving in this particular gallery will move to the first slide, where they will see the slide on the wall, and next to the slide is an audio object that if they click on it, it will begin a narration to explain the slide. In this module, we'll cover information contained in chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8, as well as some supplementary material that does not appear in those chapters. Once completed with the audio associated with one slide, then the student will move his character to the second slide. verbal symbol in the same way. Let's say that communication involves one person sending a message. Upon completion of all of the slides in a gallery, and there could be between 2 and 4 slides per gallery, the student would then move on in the process by selecting the door where a question will be asked of that individual from a random set of values that must be answered correctly to open the door and move forward. So what are the consequences of poor communication? All of the above on that one, and the door is open, ready to move into the next gallery. The student would move through all gallery rooms in a particular level using the same technique until they reach the end when a button is pressed that sends an email to the instructor that the student has completed the gallery and been exposed to all of the information and all of the questions on the doors in it. This serves basically as an equivalency to faculty-student access, providing an opportunity to build a concept that we do in fact in online have an excellent equivalency to the standard lecture in a standard face-to-face class.
To conclude, equivalence is a significant change in accreditation. The paper that I wrote along with this presentation, which is available in the discussion area for this session and you can download, documents how all regional accrediting bodies, as well as some of the specialized accrediting bodies, such as the AACSB for the business schools, have changed their requirements from time-based to objective-based measures of the equivalence of the courses. The next time we go around for accreditation, we're going to have documentation that will show that our equivalence is based on the achievement of learning objectives, not merely for the time a student spends in class. That the documentation of objectives to activities is essential. That's why either the Quality Matters or the Sloan Consortium are elements that anyone involved in online course development should be involved in so that they can develop the ability to more easily document this train of activity from objectives through activities through assessment. It must be relevant to the online and face-to-face courses both, because while it began as an equivalency element for online, face-to-face classes for accreditation purposes are going to have the same type of documentation. So we are faced with a major challenge. Building our courses on something like Quality Matters provides the ability to have that documentation, while faculty should work to develop the equivalence activities that will be accepted and will be defined so that anything that can be built into the course will be judged to be the equivalent of what's going to meet the requirements. With that, thank you very much for the time today and what's turning out to be an absolutely essential educational issue arising at the moment that every college and university in the United States should be aware of if they want to retain their accreditation as they are being redefined in criteria. With that, may I open the floor to questions?
Thank you, Professor Sturges from the University of Texas Pan American in Edinburgh. Yes, we do have some questions, obviously, after such a great presentation. The first one is as a pioneer in online learning in Texas, what is your assessment of the evolution of the andragogy, technology, and student support for online coursework? So how do you see this evolution?
Well, the best way to describe that, Professor Sines, is that as any other technology area, the area of technology in education has been absolutely and has taken off tremendously. When I began in 1994, it was a process of pasting static pages So you were able to put class notes, or you were able to put articles that they read, but they would paste up, and so the students would download them. So it really was not a very interactive or engaging type of technology. Even Second Life, when I first approached the use of Second Life about 5 or 6 years ago, I was extremely disappointed because it was very limited in what you could do in the way of establishing faculty-to-student and student-to-student activities and the other things you could build into the course structure, such as that gallery that I showed you. Some of the gallery rooms have videos for the students to go in and watch. So 5 years ago, that was not there. It took a period of about 3 years of development before Second Life reached a point that now it has a tremendous number of flexible issues or elements that can be used to build in. So if you've got the time to work with a developer and or to learn the material yourself, the flexibility that you have has become absolutely fantastic. To give you an idea, I believe your question was how do the students feel or react to it. One of the interesting things that I've noticed is that the students in the first 2 weeks of a class done in Second Life are extremely anxious. They're fearful. It's a technology that they've not been exposed to before unless they've taken one of my other courses. Nonetheless, they are terrified at the idea because of their concern with computers. Now, whether this is an element that's associated with our university because our students grow up in the Rio Grande Valley with only a minor introduction to computer activity. So I don't know whether that's something that's particular to our student population or if it's general to the entire United States. But during the first 2 weeks, students are scared to death of Second Life. By week 3 and 4, as they're beginning to become a little bit more effective in the navigation and the control of their character, they start having fun with it because it becomes much more game-like in what they're used to in their 3D games. By the 5th or 6th week, the only question I get from students is why doesn't every faculty member teach the course this way? So the idea behind it is that the students themselves end up seeing this whole thing as a wonderful way of having learning experience and engaging. One of the most fascinating things that I discover is the last class of every semester when I tell them that that's our last class meeting and so good luck on the final exam. The majority of the students respond, can't we meet next week anyway, because this is a fun way to get together and just talk things over. Because what you'll find is that this is very much the style that the students are used to, because in Second Life, while whatever is going on in the classroom itself, there's a discussion board similar to this one in the lower left so that the students can ask questions, they can talk about the process, they can express their experiences, and so they find themselves multitasking in it, and it becomes a greater learning experience. Did that answer your question, the question that you had, Professor Sines?
Yes, and it elicited a follow-up question because you talked about very interesting things, especially regarding Hispanic students, which are lucky, by the way, of having you here in South Texas. And talking about these learning styles specifically for Hispanic students taking online courses, what is your experience with that? And how have you adapted your course design towards this specific population that, by the way, is not only here in South Texas, 90 to 95% Hispanic, but this is a phenomenon among our HETS institutions throughout Puerto Rico, the U.S., and even our Colombian partners over there as well.
Okay. To answer that question, you are as aware as anyone that UT Pan American is approximately 90% Hispanic. What I have discovered, and I don't know whether this is a part of the local region or culturally, but here in the Rio Grande Valley, the Hispanic families are usually of a type where the student must work while they're going to school. The result is that UT Pan American is a commuter campus as opposed to a residential campus. So we have a large number of our Hispanic students who are trying to work while they go to school, with school being about the third or fourth priority in their list, because families are first among most of the students, followed by work, followed by church, followed by school, if we take a look at it from a cultural standpoint. So one of the problems that we've got is that the student will go to work, and if they are signed up for a class on campus face-to-face at 10:30 in the morning, they will jump on their car from their place where they work. They'll drive the 30 to 40 minutes to get to our campus. Then they'll spend about 30 to 40 minutes looking for a parking space that's relatively close to the campus. Then they'll walk to the class and get there about 5 minutes late. Then, upon the dismissal of the class, they run back to their car and drive back to their work. It is an extremely unfortunate situation for the educational experience of our students. What I have found is that by creating the flex place as opposed to the flex time, that we can accomplish everything that's in a standard face-to-face course, but the student does not have to drive to the campus. So if we have a student in Rio Grande City, which is 60 miles away, they don't have to drive into the campus for the expense that's involved or the frustration of finding a parking place. They can merely go into their lunchroom of their work, fire up the class, and attend the class at that point. In addition, the way it's structured, that because we record all of the classes, uh-oh, I froze. Am I okay? Oh, there I go. Okay. Because we record all of the classes' integrity, if a student has the ability, okay, thank you. The thing froze, so I was fearful that I had dropped out, but very good. So what we find happening is that in my particular case, I make it a policy that if the student cannot make the scheduled time for the course and actually see the discussion that goes on at that point, then it's recorded integrity so that they can go in at any time asynchronously and pick up on the information so that they're able to build it into their group activity that occurs on whenever they want it to. So I guess the best way to answer that question is that since my only experience is with a predominant Hispanic population teaching this way, I don't really have a way of comparing it to, say, other ethnic populations or other parts of the United States. But what I'm finding here is that while the students have a great deal of reticence about becoming involved in higher quality coursework on the online, that once they get into it, they have the capabilities of working with it, and we have a good time. The downside of it is that in many instances, students bring experience with previous online classes that are what I call the equivalent of the old mail correspondence courses, where they just go in, they find a list of assignments that they write responses to, or they make posts on a discussion board, and that's it. Extremely boring, very difficult to stay focused and motivated. What they find in our courses, with the Second Life being sort of the 3D game-like, they really get involved in it. And whether it's a function of our Hispanic student population in particular or students in general, I cannot address that. One of the studies that I intend to do at some point is why students pick the particular avatars that they do. I have a feeling that there's a great deal of psychological baggage that goes into people picking their characters as well as the clothing for it. And I think at some point a study needs to be done to see what that psychological characteristic is. Did that answer your question, Professor Sines?
Completely, and we look forward to your research. And if you could share it with us, that would be great. And I feel like the rest of your students that we would like to continue this conversation and probably meet next week. Although I'm going to give some information how we can continue this conversation. But I have a last question for you, and that question is, as a visionary in the use of technology that we have seen clearly by your presentation, the use of technology for teaching and learning, how do you see the future of online learning?
Growing. My prediction is that sometime in the next 5 to 10 years, we have the potential circumstance where if it went to its ultimate, in other words, if you were to look at a continuum of activity, that there is a place down the road where there will be one course in the entire United States and North America for a particular topic. In other words, the person who is considered to be the guru or the person who is the most famous for knowing the topic material will be the one that operates a course someplace, and there'll only be one version of it because everybody will sign on to that one person's course. Now that's at the far end. So what I'm saying is that any institution that has not already got into the online program for developing a quality set of courses for the learning experience is going to find themselves losing students to online courses that the students can take and get their piece of paper and be satisfied with it. What we need to do is to ensure that an institution such as ours has a quality program to differentiate ourselves from other types of online classes that are basically diploma mills, because we want our students to truly come out with a learning experience. The students that we have in our Hispanic population are going to be leaders in the future for any and everything involved in the United States and North America. I want those people to come out with an education that gives them an advantage to be the best they can possibly be in the success. So that's my target. And I think that's our future, is to make sure that we deliver the quality of learning that will be to their benefit. At least I hope so.
Yeah, we hope so too, David. Definitely, you know, I was gonna use the adjectives for your presentation: interesting, relevant, but I believe that it's mainly inspiring for all of us working with our Hispanic students. So we really thank you very much for this presentation. Not Flex Time courses, but Flex Place. And it was from the University of Texas at Brownsville. I'm sorry, from the University of Texas Pan American in Edinburgh, Texas.
Yeah, we haven't merged yet. We haven't merged yet, so give me a break.
And I'm very familiar with the University of Texas Pan American, and what you were talking about, the future and a common course, etc. The future is coming to Texas in the form of the MOOCs, the massive online open courses that the University of Texas system is part of in the EDX a consortium with Harvard and MIT. And Pan American is one of the first universities developing MOOCs, I believe, for faculty training. So that's more to come, and probably I hope in the next HETS conference we'll meet again, and I'll make it a point to visit you in Edinburgh very soon. Thank you very much.
That sounds fine. And before we go, allow me to thank you very much for using the term visionary. The problem is that a lot of people describe me as an expert, which leaves me a little cold, because you know what the definition of an expert is. An X is a has-been or what used to be, and a spurt is a drip under pressure. So thank you for referring to me as a visionary instead of an expert.
Well, thank you. Let me use some of bilingual introductions here and closing this presentation. We also want to thank our friends in the HETS headquarters in Puerto Rico, Ms. Yubelkis Montalvo, Ms. Yelixa Castro, and Mr. Alfredo Calderon, who have led this project. So, muchas gracias a nuestros amigos de HETS. Now, we want to invite all participants to access our new blog called HETS Updates or HETS Al Día. It is accessible through the HEDS website at www.heds.org, and the Heads of Data Idea blog will be the place to access live and recorded presentations and to post your comments to all presenters. In addition, you're eligible to receive continuing education credits depending on how many comments you post at the presentations you access. For more information about the virtual conference and the requirements to obtain continuing education credits, please contact the HEDS office. Again, this event is free of charge to all our members institutions in Puerto Rico, the U.S., Colombia, and no travel, of course, is required to participate since it's completely online. This no-charge registration applies to faculty, administrators, employees, and students. So please share this information with your colleagues. They just need to use a valid institutional email address to register for free. And once they register, they will receive a confirmation message with their own code to access the presentations. Well, finally, thank you all for accepting HED's invitation to participate in this live presentation of our virtual best practices showcase. I want to remind you that this afternoon we're going to have our last live presentation, even though we'll continue with the recorded presentations. And this live presentation will be at 3:30 p.m. today, Puerto Rican time, which is 2:30 East, 1:30 Central. We hope you can benefit tremendously from the resources and the networking opportunities available to you during the virtual conference along the following weeks. Once again, my name is René Sainz from the University of Texas at Brownsville, thanking you for your participation, and I will now close this transmission in Spanish. Y muchas gracias al profesor David Sturges por tan interesante, relevante y, como yo le decía, inspiradora presentación, originada desde la Universidad de Texas Pan American en Edimburgo, Texas. Asimismo, a nuestros amigos de HEDS y a todas las universidades participando en esta gran conferencia. Ahora le invitamos a todos ustedes a que sigamos esta conversación a través de nuestro blog HEDS Updates o HEDS al Día, accesible desde la página de HEDS www.hets.org. El blog HEDS al Día será el lugar donde podrán accesar las presentaciones en vivo, así como todas las grabaciones. Ustedes podrán hacer comentarios dentro de todas las presentaciones. Asimismo, los participantes podrían recibir créditos de educación continua, siempre basado en el grado de participación evidenciado por el número de comentarios en las presentaciones. Para mayor información sobre esta conferencia virtual y los requisitos específicos para obtener los créditos, por favor contacten a la oficina de HEDS y visiten su página heds.org. Como ustedes saben, este evento es gratuito para las instituciones miembros de HEDS en Puerto Rico, Estados Unidos, Colombia, y obviamente no hay que incurrir en gastos de viaje para participar, ya que la conferencia se desarrollará completamente en línea. Igualmente, no hay costos de inscripción para profesores, administradores, empleados o estudiantes. Solo se requiere usar un correo institucional válido, así que por favor díganle a sus colegas, a sus estudiantes que se inscriban gratuitamente en la página de HEDS, www.heds.org. Después de la inscripción, cada uno de ellos recibirá un mensaje de confirmación con su código para accesar las presentaciones. Bueno, finalmente, muchas gracias por aceptar la invitación de HEDS para participar en esta presentación en línea de nuestra conferencia virtual de mejores prácticas. Asimismo, los invitamos a nuestra última presentación en vivo, aunque vamos a seguir con las grabaciones, o sea, ustedes pueden entrar y va a seguir en línea. Los invitamos a esta última presentación hoy a las 3:30 de la tarde, hora del Atlántico de Puerto Rico, que son las 2:30 hora del este, 1:30 hora del centro. Esperamos que sea de gran beneficio los recursos y las oportunidades de interacción con colegas durante esta conferencia virtual que se desarrollará en las próximas semanas. Se despide su amigo René Sainz desde la Universidad de Texas en Brownsville a nombre de HEDS. Muchos saludos a todos. Gracias.
We understand the factors that promote college success, the impact of approaches that truly facilitate success and quality. the secret to a solid teaching process for the Hispanic learner, and the key role of technology to make this happen. HETS, an opportunity to propose, find, and integrate innovative technology solutions to education. We go beyond higher education. We strive for a higher vision. Visit us at www.hets.org. HETS Consortium.